It's not part of how they really feel and what they really think. She goes on to talk about the case for rebuilding the party. Take a listen.
They talk about rebuilding the party. How about rebuilding the middle class? They talk about rebranding the GOP instead of restoring the trust of the American people. Now, we can't just ignore, though, that we just lost a big election. Yeah, came in second out of 2. Second position on the dog sled team, it's where the view never changes, and the view ain't pretty. But we need to figure out then, our job, what will we do next? As we go about that, as we talk to one another and listen to what the speakers have to say, let's be clear about one thing. We're not here to rebrand a party. We're here to rebuild a country.
Okay, now she's obviously expressing exactly what the majority of Tea Party members across the country have been trying to express since the inception of the Tea Party, and that is point blank, we need a revival of constitutionally limited government, and we need to bring this from common sense perspectives. Let's stop worrying about what people think about us, and let's go out there and just make the case. Make the case for conservatism. Make the case for fiscal responsibility. Make the case for self-reliance. Stop depending on the government to take care of you and start depending on yourself, because the government, no matter how well intended it may be at any given time, is never going to care as much about you and your well-being as you need it to. And is definitely never going to care as much about the well-being of your loved ones as you will. It's inherent on you not to trade any freedoms for the perception or the illusion of security. That's the bottom line. She did go on and make a few more statements, and this time talking about the budget. Listen in where she talks about the people's money.
The American family budget. And while the middle-class Americans, while we're breaking their budgets, the Democrat-controlled Senate refuses to pass a budget. That was how many years ago that they did? How many trillions in debt ago? All in violation of Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of our U.S. Constitution. No budget for 4 years. No budget for 4 years is not just bureaucratic bungling. Refusing to pass a budget is government refusing to declare what it intends to do with the people's money.
That's right. She is absolutely dead on. It is a case of the government refusing to tell you what it is they're planning on doing, so they don't have to put it on paper. They don't have to put it where you can review it. They don't have to give you any idea. They just keep passing these continuing resolutions, and they move forward, and they act like it's no big deal. And as long as the checks keep coming to the folks that receive the benefits, then everything's fine. Meanwhile, they send billions of dollars worth of our military hardware to the Muslim Brotherhood, and they do these things without a second thought. There's no concern, and there's no reason for you to be concerned because they're doing what they do. Finally, the most soundbite-worthy statement is coming up in this next clip when she basically tells the president what he needs to do.
No budget is no leadership. And it's time for America to get more outraged about this. Never before have our challenges been so big and our leaders so small. Now, when we were here last year, the words on everyone's lips and the wish in your heart was for Barack to pack her up and bubble wrap the Nobel and the clubs and the high tops and head on back to Chicago. Well, the election came and went, but the campaign never stopped. At a time when our country is desperate for leadership, we get instead a permanent campaign. But here's the thing. Leaders take risks for the good of our country. Campaigners make promises they can't keep. Leaders reach across political differences. Campaigners double down on those differences. Leaders seek to bring Americans together to confront our challenges. And campaigners, they seek to divide and to conquer and to orchestrate crisis after crisis after crisis to exploit. Mr. President, we admit it. You won. Accept it. Now step away from the teleprompter and do your job.
Now, I left almost 5 seconds of the applause on the end of that clip, but that applause went on for a while. And I think that pretty effectively sums up the frustration that most Americans have had for a while now with this particular person. Bottom line is, this man begged for this job, not just once, but twice. He begged for millions of dollars to waste on campaigning, and then he turned around and used those millions of dollars to beg the American people to give him another chance. And even then, as I've made quite clear, I firmly believe he did not win that election. I firmly believe the fix was in. That's why I refer to him as the occupier now, because he's occupying the White House. He's taken it. And I have no doubt that over the course of the next 3 years, you're going to see continued efforts to repeal the 22nd Amendment. You're going to see continued efforts to allow more bodies of government to have the authority to declare martial law. You're going to see martial law used as an excuse. You're going to see this man try to find a way to stay in power regardless of what the Constitution says. He's demonstrated repeatedly he has no interest in it. But the call to step away from the teleprompter and do your job is the same call that I put out to every member of Congress as well, the Senate and the House. You have a job to do. It's called no more continuing resolutions. Get a budget, pass a budget, get it signed into law, and let's start working on real solutions to the financial crisis that we're facing. That means real cuts to spending, not just cuts in the rate of increase of spending. That's not enough. As I've already said, the Paul Ryan budget doesn't get it done. Normally you can count on him for common sense. This time, there's some serious questions about this budget, not the least of which is the fact that they completely defund Obamacare spending, but keep the Obamacare tax increase, along with the fiscal cliff increase. And you're going to take 10 years to balance the budget? That's hardly worth even bragging about. At any rate, ladies and gentlemen, let me give this to you one more time. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patty's Day. And may the luck of the Irish be with you for all the year. Tap into the Truth. Check us out at tapintothetruth.com for our latest blog posts and for links to all of our past broadcasts. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and to follow us on Twitter. That's Tap Into the Truth right here on Spreaker Radio.
All right, I hope everyone has had a really really good St. Patrick's Day. I hope everybody's had their corned beef and their cabbage, along with some good old-fashioned Irish potatoes and carrots. And I hope you're enjoying the bright, sunny, summery day that we had today here in pre-spring. Ultimately, what does happen now that CPAC is over? What do we do now? How do we focus on the momentum? How do we ignore the pundits? How do we not read too much into the retaliation from those who felt like they were attacked? Our focus has to be on conservative values. Our focus has to be on standing on principle. Our focus has to be on educating the low information voter, but doing it in a way that is not condescending and not challenging. We'll gain more with patience and outreach than we will with name-calling and division, which have been the tools of the enemy. We need to turn those tools against them. We don't back down. We don't let them shout us down. But we don't lower ourselves to their level. We have to stand up and not only espouse those virtues verbally, but we have to demonstrate them with our lives. It's no different than being a good Christian, ladies and gentlemen. No different. You don't just show up at church on Sunday and think that's good enough. You have to walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk. We've got to demand our elected leaders behave as though they are leaders. Sarah Palin hit almost all the major topics that we need to focus on as we move forward. If the Republican Party is going to continue to be the conservative party, then they're going to have to get conservative. And right now, it really, to me, seems like they've got to start that by getting serious about the budget. And I'm going to keep hammering away on this topic. John Boehner, Mr. Speaker, sir, no more continuing resolutions. This nation can't afford it. It's just as bad as any budget that's going to be proposed by Obama. It's just as bad as any budget that's capable of passing the Senate, because it leaves no one accountable. And just like Barack Obama, there's not a single member in either body of the Senate that didn't beg for this job. Now, when you're doing it right, it is a tough job. And you're going to disappoint people. You're going to make people mad when you have to tell them no about something. But it's tough. That is the job. And you begged for it. So now, do it. Do the job. You do the job, you may not get reelected, but you will have served the people. And that is the job. You can't just ignore the fact that we're still spiraling towards a ridiculous demise with utter, total financial collapse and ruin. That only gets stopped through your actions. That's tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the sound bites. Hope you enjoyed the little Irish camaraderie. And actually, remember, check us out at tapintothetruth.com. Remember, don't take my word for it. Definitely don't take their word for it. Take a little time, do a little research, and use your brain. That's what you've got it for. Thanks again for listening, and have a great night.